So Seattle comes in at 9-2. Well, I guess we go to Seattle. They are 9-2. Offensively, they are fifth in total offense, 385.4 yards a game, 11th in passing yards, which is 248 and a half. They are, however, tied 21st in sacks allowed with 33. They are tied sixth in rush yards at 136.9, 11th in yards per carry at 4.5, 14th in third down percentage at 40, seventh in points per game at 26.5. Defensively, they're actually a little bit worse than you would think, at least from the rankings, even though they have been playing better as of late. 23rd in total defense at 370.3 yards a game, 29th in passing yards allowed at 268.7, tied 27th in sacks at 23, 10th in rushing yards allowed at 101.5, 22nd in yards per carry allowed at 4.5, ninth in third down percentage at 35%, and tied 21st in points per game allowed at 23.9. So, as far as names go, both teams kind of have a long list of injuries. Nico Thorpe, he's a corner. He's doubtful with a groin. Nick Bellore, fullback slash linebacker. He's doubtful with a quad injury. Luke Wilson, hamstring. He's questionable. Al Woods, questionable with an ankle. Clowney, questionable with core. Jerron Reed, he's questionable with an ankle. And then Michael Kendricks is questionable with a hamstring, but Michael Kendricks didn't practice today, so keep a little eye on that, because those three linebackers, they like to use them a lot because they're really, really good. With Michael Kendricks and Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, you can kind of keep them in there all the time. So if Michael Kendricks can't go, that's a key component of that defense. And Tyler Lockett didn't practice the last 2 days with shin and illness injuries kind of thing, which could mean nothing. He's expected to play, but still potentially something of note. And I saw Reed will play, and from a lot of things that I read, it seems like Clowney's going to be more on a pitch count than full-time playing, but we'll see how that goes in game action. That isn't always, when you say, oh, this guy's on a pitch count, it doesn't always mean he's on a pitch count because of the flow of the game. But Minnesota, they come in at 8-3 offensively, 8th in total offense at 378.6 yards a game, 15th in passing yards per game at 236.2. They are tied 9th in sacks allowed at 22, 4th in rushing yards at 142.5. They are tied for 9th in yards per carry at 4.6, 9th in third down percentage at 44%, and they are 8th in points per game at 26.3. Defensively, 15th in total defense, 338.6. 20th in passing yards allowed at 244.5. They are tied for 10th in sacks with 31, 6th in rushing yards allowed at 94.2, and they're tied 9th in yards per carry allowed at 4.1. 15th in third down percentage at 37%, and 6th in points per game allowed at 18.6. So, injuries. Ben Gideon's the only one who's for sure out with the concussion. Linval Joseph, questionable with a knee. Harrison Smith, questionable with a hamstring. Thielen, questionable with a hamstring. Anthony Harris, questionable with a groin. Shamar Stephen is questionable with a knee. And I do kind of assume Adam Thielen's going to be back after the cutting of Josh Doxson, because I can't, or at least attempting for him to give it a go, because I can't see them just entering a game knowing they'd have three receivers. So I assume if they, I guess promote Davian Davis again, that on Monday, we'll see whether or not Thielen's actually going to be out there, because if they do that, well, he's probably not going to play. But as of right now, I assume he would. And both Harrison Smith and Linval Joseph were full practice guys on Saturday. So maybe they are actually in line to play, which with Linval Joseph, he had a little bit of a knee surgery. They actually expected him to miss one more week, so if he gets any kind of playing time in this game, he's well ahead of schedule. So there is that. So, actual thoughts now. Offensively, you don't turn the ball over against this hyper-aggressive defense. I actually think you should be using the hyper-aggressiveness against them. because they're constantly going for the ball and they kind of shoot some gaps sometimes to go get the ball. So hopefully some of that misdirection play action stuff is something that they can actually do against this team, which means you need to get Dalvin the football early and often. You need to get him going. Not that that's anything new. But the other thing I will say here is I think they need to play their own style of offense, or what I mean by that is more so force the opponent to adjust to you, because they do so, like, what they are supposed to be good at, they are very good at. But I still feel like, for the most part, they're not just saying, well, we know we can just beat you with what we do well, but we're just going to adjust to you kind of thing. And I don't really like that, because I think that's when they kind of put themselves in a little pigeonhole. Like, they feel like we didn't see one of those play action boots that they've been so good at this entire year, like against Denver until maybe like the fourth quarter. And it didn't really make sense. Or it's like, just be you. Just do what you're supposed to be good at. And I know that sounds weird, but I do think they are talented enough and good enough to actually do that. And they just aren't doing that. And this kind of goes into that, which I think is keep the explosive plays a coming here. I think how you do that is you do, end up off of these play action passes and these screen passes that they've been so good at all year. Just continue to kind of go in your role. Do not mess with what has been working necessarily. Don't try to get a little too cute. I feel like they've done this a few times. I think they kind of did it in Kansas City a little bit, and it just feels like they almost lost to Denver because of it. And I do think a different key here is to get to 30 or more points. I doubt you win this game without scoring 30 points, just because Russell Wilson is such an X factor out there. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with any kind of lead unless it has a little 3 in the front. And for Kirk, this is kind of a different thing. I don't usually say these kinds of things in this. Center stage is his once again. Just own it this time, because there are some people out there who do think he is in that MVP conversation. Well, Monday Night Football with one of the MVP frontrunners. If you're in it, go win it. Show them up. Kind of own the stage. Do it. Force those narratives to kind of come crumbling back down, so to speak. I would like to see it. I don't think I expect it, but I would like him to go do that. Defensively, you need to contain Russell Wilson at any cost that it takes, because if he gets outside the pocket, that's when he kills you. And part of that is do not come off your guy when he goes outside the pocket, because he's a guy who will actually throw it to the guy you come off of. Not every quarterback actually does that. So play your guy. He is not your guy. Because if he ends up getting a first down because of a 10-yard run, just know that is probably a better outcome than if we had a corner come off and try to, come and get him, because all of a sudden Tyler Lockett's 40 yards down the field after a run and catch. So play your guy. Your guy is not Russell Wilson. That's not who it is. Play your guy. And you do need to stop the running game and force Russell to beat you from within the pocket, which goes into the containing of Russell Wilson. And I know he can beat you from within the pocket, and I know that sounds dumb, but he's a player that can beat you in any which way. So if you can take away the outside of the field for him to go and, actually make those throws, make those plays that we all know he can do, and you take away the running game and you force him from within the pocket, it at least heightens them a bit. Because now all of a sudden he can't beat you from every single way, and then all of a sudden, oh no, Chris Carson, that's a 50-yard run because we have to worry about all this, and you just ran right up the middle. So, yeah. And Seattle doesn't necessarily have a highly explosive offense in terms of what goes under explosives, which is those 10-plus yard runs and 20-plus yard plays. They're more methodical. So hopefully we can keep the explosive plays down this time. And I am a little curious to how they adjust this defense or how they tweak it. I'm not anticipating some giant change. I don't think you're going to see all of a sudden, oh no, this is a 3-4 team or, anything like that. That'd be ridiculous. But more of tweaking, like maybe they start, pattern matching a bunch set a little differently, or maybe they play a certain coverage and all of a sudden they change, just the assignments of which they read it. Little things like that we may not be able to pick up on, that just hopefully make it better, because there's no way they didn't do anything to this over the bye. I imagine they did some kind of thing. I'm a little interested to see how it works, if it works better, if it's the same, worse, whatever it may be. But I just hope to see less explosive plays in general. Just hopefully the corners do their job. And the red zone is super key on this because of the Russell Wilson effect, where he does run around and he buys extra time and, such a short area of the field where all of a sudden, maybe there's a holding in the back end on the secondary, and now you get 4 extra downs to get a touchdown and things like that. Or maybe he just makes one of those great Russell Wilson plays and all of a sudden he just scores there. So have to worry about that a bit. You have to win the red zone on both sides. That's a both side thing. And you have to force turnovers on the defense. Once again, it's hard for me to envision a win where we, much like the offense, where I said if you don't get 30 or more points, it's hard for me to think of a win. Very hard for me to think of a win if our defense doesn't get a turnover or two. And this is just a general thing. They need to win end of the half situations, because that is where Seattle has been so good this year. So you need to beat them at their own game, so to speak, here. And, whether that's holding them out of the end zone or getting into the end zone, or even just being able to put up points or prevent some kind of points, you need to be able to win that end of half situation, because if you don't, that could very well cost you the game. That's including the first half, obviously. But obviously the end of the half would definitely lose you the game. And my prediction here is, people might be mad at me, but I am taking Seattle 28-26, just because I do think it will be close. But it's very hard for me to take Minnesota to do something that they haven't really shown they can do, where in order to beat Seattle, you might have to pounce on every single little opportunity that you get. Minnesota hasn't really shown that they do that, which is part of the reason why I said they need to play their own style of football, not necessarily, oh no, this is what this game dictates we do. Well, just play your own style of football, because I honestly feel like that's their best way to win most of the time. And I don't know, something tells me they might not have that killer instinct in them to go and do that. So it's hard for me to just say, oh no, they'll do it this time. I haven't seen it yet. I would like to see them do it before I take them to do it. That and Russell Wilson seems to always make the play at the moment in order to win the game. That's just kind of what he does. And I would like to mention, if Minnesota does pull off this win, in the event they do, because I do think they're capable of it, I just am not confident they will. But if they do pull it off, we could be looking at a potential division crown because of how the things go, because how this game shapes up at the end of it pretty much locks whoever loses this game into a wild card, while the other has a chance to go win the division. So, and also a potential bye for either team, because if you have a chance to win the division, they're all up there. So it's like, I know the Saints right now are the 2 seed, but a falter or two on their part, and all of a sudden whoever's that 3 seed jumps up. In the Minnesota Green Bay case, or I guess Seattle's case, just go beat your division rival out there and you get the 1 potentially. Ooh, excuse me. But yeah, those are my thoughts here. Know your thoughts in the comments down below, all that good stuff. You know how it is. Liking, subscribing helps all the time. And until next time, I bid y'all adieu.